Okay, it's the end of the session. I'm here with, this is Mochi, and this is Lolo, and this is their roadmap to success. Mochi, yes, you're a little bit of an excited and submissive urinator, and she really kind of runs hot and cold for a lot of things. She gets very excited for the walks, she gets very anxious, and she loses a little bit of control. She barks and goes crazy for the walks. A lot of these things are just a lack of control. Dogs are very instinctive creatures. They don't typically think and rationalize things. They say squirrel. They don't think that squirrel just ran across Lincoln. My odds of getting across Lincoln are probably slim to none without getting hit. They just go get it. So we have to help them practice that. And so one of the first things we talked about is exercise. The Guardian here is not doing a bad job of exercising them. Exercise could be a little bit better. So I recommend maybe getting a iFetch, which is a machine that lets the dog play fetch with itself. It's a nice indoor version. Get the small version for your dogs. The balls are a little bit bigger than a tennis ball. And if you have problems teaching them how to use the iFetch, let me know. But since they already like to fetch, it's usually pretty easy. And so that way she can play fetch with herself. If she comes up and she starts going after Lolo and Lolo wants to move away, then take it and play, use the machine yourself and exercise her. If she starts barking or getting boisterous or whatever, probably means that she needs some exercise. So remember, exercising her before practicing these exercises we're going to talk about, or before you go for a walk, can produce a much more efficient walk as well. So exercise is best done every couple of hours. Dogs sleep about, these dogs probably sleep about 14 to 15 hours a day. And when they're asleep, they're recharging their batteries. So if we can play fetch for 5 minutes and then 3 hours play fetch again for 5 minutes and so on and so forth, that helps the dogs, helps us set them up for success. We also, hey, yes. So if you remember, use past training. Every time she licks, you pat her and say kiss or smoochies or whatever the word is you want. Okay, we also talked about rules. Yes, you need a lot of rules. Really didn't have very many rules. And if a dog doesn't have any rules, it sees you as a peer, and then if it sees you as a peer, then listening to you becomes optional. But it can also confuse the dog and think its job is to protect or be possessive of you. And we have two dogs that can create some jealousies and some other unbalanced issues. So some of the rules I suggest is rule number 1, not being allowed in the furniture, because the higher a dog sits, the more rank or social status they have. So no furniture, and these rules should be in place for 90 days minimum, or as long as the problem's still going on. But all my clients say, but you said 90 days. 90 days minimum, or as long as the problem's still going on. And then at the end of that period of time, if we want to invite Mochi up on the couch, it's a one-time exception. Right now, she pees on the couch, she jumps up on people's laps on the couch, she invades people's personal space. So taking them with furniture will go a long ways towards helping her see a literal distinction between her and the human's authority. So the first rule would be not being allowed the furniture. You can get those X mats, letter X, M-A-T-S on Amazon. You can tear them in half. They kind of have a fold in the middle. You could kind of cut them at the fold and put them on the edge of the couch to keep her from off. At the same time we do that, we also went over how to teach her to go to Zuma. We should see the very nice cursive right there. Zuma is the name of going to the dog bed. Since dogs can read facial expressions, coming up with funny command words is a wonderful way to motivate your dog to want to do these things for the rest of its life. So to use the dog bed, what we did is we threw a treat. We threw a treat on the dog bed. Yeah, you got some, and your roommate got some. So if Mochi's always getting them, then let Lola take Mochi into the room and practice with Lola separately. So you throw the treat. As soon as the dog is standing with at least one paw on the dog bed and licks it up, we say the word Zuma. And then wait for the dog to vacate the dog bed and do that again. Do that for about 10, 11 treats. Next stage is when the dog's not paying attention. I leave one there in the middle of it, and this is why you want to use a light cream, white, or light gray dog bed so they see the treat instantly. Don't point it out for them. When they see it, she's like, oh, dog bed. And she runs over there, and as soon as she licks it up, you say Zuma. Third way we do it is we lead her in there, we put her in a sit or an LAY, and then pop the treat in her mouth and say the word Zuma. These are 3 ways to entice her to go there. Once the dog starts going there on their own, then we give them a treat after they do, to pay them for doing the act that we want. If you don't have a treat, just say the word Zuma. When you pet them, if you're too far away, just say the word Zuma. You don't have to necessarily pet. Petting with a treat would be the best, or treat and then saying the name would be the best. And you might want to just have, you don't have really, if you had a drawer there, I would say maybe keep a couple of treats in a drawer. I have the treat pouch that's over there on the dog on the table is a mini treat pouch from PetSafe. You might want to have one of those, so that way you can kind of have it with you. So if the dog does it, you can pull a treat out and throw it on the dog bed, motivate them want to go there. Other rules, you have to sit before I open the door. I'm going to go to the door. I'm going to say sit one time. If neither dog sits within 3 seconds, I walk away, sit down nearby, wait for 1 minute, then go back to the door and command them again to sit. If they don't sit, this time I know you want to get down. If they don't sit this time, I'll walk away and sit down for 2 minutes, Then for 4 minutes to 8 minutes. But again, you say sit once, they have 3 seconds. Only say it once. The more you say it, the less you mean it. And let's say I go and sit, and let's say Lolo sits and Mochi doesn't. Then I'll open the door and let Lolo out and not let Mochi out. So I'm paying based on performance. Speaking of which, I'd like you to pull out one treat from time to time and walk around the room, walk over a different part of the room and say, come. Whoever comes and sits first gets the treat. Whoever comes second doesn't get anything unless it was about the same effort. So that way you're giving more motivation to listen to you. So for the door, what we're saying is if you want to go out the door, you have to do something for me first. You do what I want, and boy, that door opens like grease lightning. You don't do what I want, I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to chastise you. Nothing happens. You don't get what you want. After a while, the dog goes sit at its door is a way of saying I'd like to go outside. Remind me to go over potty training and the bell, so I'll go through that with you as well. All right, other rules shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. Use that the escalating consequences and mention and practice that the way I showed you. If you forget how to do that, go to doggonproblems.com, click on where it says dog training tips, type in a visible line on the search box on the right side of the page at the bottom of the page, and it'll come up with examples of videos where I show you how to enforce a visible boundary. Same thing with the kitchen or with the dining room table. When we're eating, shouldn't be allowed to eat. You can also the same video will kind of explain that same technique. Let me see. And then at the end of the period of time, like for the couch, we would allow the dog on the couch with an invitation, only for good behavior, and it's a one-time pass. So if you invite Mochi up here, and she gets up and she goes down to get a toy, when she comes back, she would need another invite to get back up because it's your couch. You're just being generous enough to share it with her. Now, also keep in mind, I gave them both bully sticks. I'll leave hopefully I'll remember. I'll leave one for each one of them. But Mochi finished hers first and then went to try to take hers. She invaded her space. She kept on chewing it, so she kind of, I don't say attack because that's a strong word, but basically did attack to try to get it. I went up and corrected. So if you give them both bully sticks, make sure somebody's watching. She's probably going to, Lola's probably going to chew it a little bit slower. And so if that's the case, once Mochi's done, make sure you're watching Lolo for her. And so if she tries to go over, you can make that hissing sound, stand up, march over there. Be careful about the hissing sound if you're dealing with two dogs. If she's chewing it and you're trying to hiss at her, she might think you're hissing at her. So then I might just use that stand or the march technique. Okay, we also talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if the dog comes up and nudges you or paws at you or barks at you or jumps in your lap, you instead stand up if you jump in your lap. Give the dog a counter order. If she's already sitting, ask her to come and sit over here. Once she sits, pet her under her chin. Now the body mechanic for a proud dog is have its nose in the air, so try to get in the habit of petting under the chin. And then say the word sit once, or the word crash, or whatever, flop, whatever the word is to lay down. And once the dog lays down, they pet once to infinity number of pets, as much as you would like, but at least once. After a while, the dog will start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. You better pet your dog when it does it, because that's the end result. That's what we're looking for. If the dog doesn't sit, then show the dog, I got other things to do. I wanted to pet you. Yeah, as cute as you are, I teach puppy classes. I'm immune. So if I say sit and you don't do what I want, then I show you I'm going to watch TV, I'm going to read my magazine, I'm going to write a little sweet poem or whatever it is. And then the dog realizes that, man, the life went on, and next time she asks me to sit, probably be a good idea to sit and get that reward. Remember, good attention, bad attention is the same thing. So don't reward your dog by correcting them. When she's whining or whimpering, when she's excited for the leash, that means that we should remember ourselves, we need to practice more of this. Not that the dog did anything wrong, we didn't set her up for success. So, petting with a purpose, even if you want to pet the dog, still tell the dog to sit. Preferably pet on its chin, say the word sit and only the word sit, not good sit, not sit. No, we want to say just sit. All right, so let me see. We also talked about passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer you the behavior you want without any indication or any motivation. So every time Mochi comes to you, pet her and say come. Every time she does the rah-rah, come up with a funny word for Lolo. She makes a kind of a funny sound. Name all your individual toys. Come up with a fun word to eat food. So each dog has its own unique word. Maybe we say chimichanga for her, and we say vittles for the other one. Whatever it is, just for 4 months, every time they take their first bite of food, say that command word while they have the first bite of food in their mouth. And don't say it repetitively, just say it once in whatever the normal tone of voice is. Make a list of the official command words. Try to come up with funny command words for any new ones, something that's going to make people laugh. And try to keep those one-word commands and like 1-2 syllable commands and pretty unique. If you see right here, we have Zuma written down. So if it's in different places, if like sit at the door, just put a little Post-it note next to the door. And that way, every time we go there, we have a little indicator. Now I use paycheck when I suspect someone's petting without a purpose. That person should stop petting even if they did it right. Tell the dog to sit. And if the dog sits, pet it and then say sit and tell the person, I did it right, you just missed it. But thanks for reminding me, I do forget. Also, passive training, I use testify, but you can use whatever word is that you want to use for that. Testify means you're missing an opportunity to reward the dog for doing something you want. So every time the dog sits and mom or dad or M didn't see it, we say testify. The dog, we just reach over, look at the dog, and just start petting him. When the dogs are nice and calm like this is a great time to pet them and say chillaxin or whatever the word is that you guys want to use, because you're putting it in context. When you come home and the dogs are excited, do not pet them. Don't look at them. Don't even talk to them. As soon as they calm down, look at them and start reaching. And as soon as you do, they'll start wiggling. Pull your arm back and continue doing what you're doing. You'll have a whole bunch. I'm not talking about like 1 or 2. You might have 20 or 30 or 50 starts and stops. But if your timing is precise, the dog will eventually figure out, when I'm calm and sitting, I'm very attractive to the humans. They just want to pet me like crazy. As soon as I go crazy, I'm invisible to them. And the dog will start emulating the behavior that you want that gets them the reward. So I say vocabulary if you're saying the wrong version of the official, not saying the official word. Repeat or rerun if you're using a command word multiple times. And then, what was the other one we're going to say? If you're, Mochi likes to flip over and give the belly. So come up with a word for that means you stop petting. Call it vetter or whatever you want to say. So that means that you don't want to pet her for submissiveness, because that is related to the insecurity. And it's also related to a little bit of the barking and some of the other problems. So if you're petting her and she starts to roll over, you stop petting her. And as soon as she rights herself, then you start again. So you stop with precision over and over again. After a while, she'll learn and she'll just stay with her belly down. Now, if a dog lays down, for other people when you're watching this, just like anything else, there's a lot of things that can be interpreted one way for one dog, some way with another dog. Usually the dog lays on its back with its belly up and saying, I'm so relaxed and comfortable in your presence that I put myself at a disadvantage. She's doing it to kind of debase herself a little bit. And we don't want her to do that. We want to just say that causes me not to have any interest in petting you. Now, for potty training, what we want to do is we want to come up with a new command word. And as soon as the dog pees either right on the lanai here or down the street, as soon as they start to pee or poop, you say business, whatever the word is you want to use. And so say in a normal tone of voice, have a treat not only with you, but in your hand, holding it between your thumb and forefinger. So as soon as the dog gets done peeing, now these dogs be on a leash, but usually I say crouch down. That causes the dog to come to you, pop the treat in their mouth, and then say the word business a second time. So the first time associates the word with the action, second time the action or the word with the reward. After a while, the dog will protest and make a big deal if it can't get outside the door. And while you're doing this, I would probably close the doors unless you're starting to have a lot of accidents around the house. Then we might go to a sequestered area. Now, if so the dog's in an X pen, so they don't have the ability to go hide somewhere else. Now, for dogs, liquids are about a 45-minute digestive process. Solids are about 8 hours on average, but just like I said, it depends on metabolism, how awake the dog is, and a lot of other things. So if you feed your dogs on a regular basis, after a while you can start identifying kind of the window that they're going to need to go number 2. Now, when I'm potty training my dog, I take it out once an hour, whether it needs to or not. This is remedial potty training, so you could or could not, but just make sure somebody was watching them each time. And again, they have 5 minutes to go outside. If they don't go in 5 minutes, bring them back, hold them like this, or put them in the kennel. You guys don't have a kennel, but probably hold on to them. So when they start whimpering, then I would take them back out. That's their way of saying, I need to go again. I remembered it's urgent for me to go. Now for the bell, we want to hang the bell only after we've already taken care of, and we can say the word business, and the dogs jump around, and we know that's a yes. So until you can get that, don't worry about the bell. The bell you want to put next to the door in a place where when you open the door, the wind and the suction is not going to make it ring. And the way you do that is you take the bell with you out on potty breaks. As soon as the dog starts to pee or poop, instead of saying business, you gently ring the bell while they're in the act of elimination. Same for both number 1 and number 2. When they get done, clamp it, then crouch down, pop a treat in their mouth, and once the treat's in their mouth, start jingling the treat again while they're chewing it. Again, associates the word with the action, and the action or the word with the command word, or with reward, excuse me. And after a while, they'll go nudge it as a way of saying, I'd like to go outside. And if they are sequestered in other rooms, you can put, the bell does not need to be by the door. The bell can be anywhere. So if you're in your bedroom and the door's closed and she can't get to this bell, put another one next to your dresser. It just means I want to go outside. It doesn't mean that it has to be open the door right there. The 5 rules for a structured walk are in the video above, and also helping the dog be calm. It's going to be harder for Mochi than it is for Lolo. And but remember to practice leashing Mochi up 5 times for every 1 walk, and do it at times when you're not planning on going for a walk. So that way, you know, when it's a commercial break, you spend a couple minutes doing that, and then go back to watching your show. And she's like, "Oh man, we were going for a walk. I ruined it." No, she didn't. But you just set yourself up for success because we don't have time to do it all the time, do we? All right, make sure you're eating before you feed them. That's one of the rules I forgot to go over. And as soon as they walk away from the bowl, pick up the bowl, dump it empty, but most importantly, put the empty bowl back on the ground. And when Lolo's eating, Mochi's not allowed to be near her. And when Lolo walks away, if she leaves food in her bowl, we pick up the bowl, we dump it empty, and then she moves away, and then we invite Mochi in. And when Mochi's eating, Lolo's not allowed to be there. It's even Steven, both two-way street. So that way the dogs see us acting like leaders by enforcing these rules, and eating, like I mentioned, is one of the most important activities for dogs. I'm trying to think what else. Is there anything else you want me to go over that we haven't talked about?
No, but how much, like, can we close the gate while one's eating and the other one isn't?
You could close the gate. I would prefer you don't. I would prefer that you are the authority figure. If you close the gate is doing the work for you. Okay. Then a pinch, if it's one of you, you're late or something like that, you got to do something like that. But like I mentioned, I can have my dog sitting there, and he'll sit there for 2 hours with me, nobody in the room. And that's a wonderful development of self-control, which will help with the excited urination. That's really what you have to do. Okay. Also, I would, just like us, if we learn new skills, we have a sense of self-esteem and pride boost that kicks in. Teaching your dog new tricks and commands is a wonderful way to boost their self-esteem. It also develops kind of a little bit of a mentor-protege relationship. And if you have ever had a mentor, you have usually a lot of respect for your mentor. And so if you're there practicing, teaching them how to roll over or play dead, or grab a milk out of the refrigerator for me, or whatever it is, it's a nice way for them to have a little bit more self-esteem. That should reduce the barking and the cortisol in their blood and all the rest of that stuff. Remember not to pet the dog when it is anxious or nervous. When you come home, we're going to ignore until the dog's calm, and then start, and then stop as soon as they get excited. Now, if you do want to console the dog, you can lay your hand on the dog. I can't move this without them trying to get down, but just lay your hand on their back and as a reassuring. But if the dog is reacting, the best thing you can do is increase the distance between them and whatever they're reacting to. Sometimes you have to move beyond line of sight before they can actually settle themselves down. Anything else? I'm going to be missing out on a cupcake if I don't take one before I leave. Well, this is Lolo, and this is Mochi, and this is their roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.